in my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, nah, likely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane, making pleasure out of pain, turning losses into...
What is up, Steeler Nation? Pittsburgh Steelers win again, getting their first back-to-back games, stacking their first wins, 2 games in a row for the first time this year. And it was a pretty good performance by the team. I think the first time this year that I could say the Pittsburgh Steelers played a full game. And the score was closer than what, most people would have expected or thought and or hoped. The team was able to move up and down the field. However, they ended up with several field goals. The final score was 19-16. The Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Atlanta Falcons. And we got to remember, guys, the Atlanta Falcons were a team that had a very good running game going into this game, and a team that were in a lot of close games. So this was the style in which they were playing. They minimized possessions because of their running game, being able to, go down the field and play and keep time of possession and the clock running. There was only a few, I don't think the Steelers had very many possessions during this game because of it. They were going down the field themselves. And so, first we'll say hi to a couple of folks in the live chat, then we'll get into what my thoughts about were on the game. We have Steelers fan in saying she's just happy that we got a win. I agree. Here we go from the Drunk Turkey Show. Allie, how's it going? So Pittsburgh Steelers came out in this game and they drove down the field, ended up with a field goal. However, I thought that the opening drive was a solid drive. Kenny Pickett found Pat Freiermuth a couple of times there on third down. And, you want to see the team get into the end zone. And I think that as this team grows and progresses as a unit, we're going to see more. We're going to see the football fall into the end zone more. One thing that I've been kind of saying for a while now, and it's kind of coming to fruition, is that this is a very young offense. You have a rookie quarterback. Your wide receiver number 1 arguably could be George Pickens, which is another rookie. You have a second-year running back. You have a second-year tight end. You have a 2 guys on the interior offensive line that were new to the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. And so you couldn't really throw the full playbook into this team right off the bat. They had to learn this. They had to earn it and learn it, and then produce it, and then show that they could execute it. And it's been a little bit slow, and I think a lot of that had to do with the throwing in a rookie quarterback 5 weeks in and having to adjust on the fly and adjust your game plan. And one key indicator that the Steelers were adjusting is when you look at Derek Watt. He wasn't playing very much under Matt Canada with Mitch Trubisky, nor with Ben Roethlisberger last year. However, with Kenny Pickett, he's in there quite a bit and making his presence known. And so, the first few games were against some very difficult teams. I think you needed to, with everything going on and having a rookie quarterback starting in the middle of the season at that point, it had to be a little bit slower. You couldn't give him more than what he could have handled. And as the season progresses, we're seeing more and more of this offense open up. And in my opinion, it's opening up in the running game and how this team is effectively getting yards in the running game. Najee Harris was 17 for 86 yards, 5.1 average. Benny Snell had 6 carries for 24 yards. He was a 4-point average. Now, before I go further, Najee Harris had himself a game. Najee Harris looked like Najee Harris of last year. It was good to see him going forward. And I think a lot of these guys are cleaning up, their game, so to speak. You're seeing Najee Harris going forward, being physical, being tough. Dante Johnson, he wasn't going backwards in this game. He did have that almost fumble, and we'll talk about him in that situation. But, he wasn't going backwards. He wasn't going sideways to sideline. He was going up the field, and it showed, and it helped out this team immensely. But they gave the ball to Steven Sims 3 times. He got 19 yards for a 6.3 average. Kenny Pickett ran the ball 7 times for 14 yards. Jalen Warren had a carry for 5. Derek Watt had 1 for 4, which resulted in a first down. Gunnar Olszewski had 2 carries for 2 yards. So all in all, the Steelers ran for 154 yards on 37 carries. It was a fantastic job. I think that the running game was on point, and I'm liking how this team is operating as far as the running game goes. They're not being that predictable anymore. And like I was saying before, I think that has a lot to do with this offense, the players growing into this offense. And I think it's going to get better. There were certain things I wanted to see this team go. So until if the Steelers win next week, that's when I'll start looking at playoff picture, and I'm going to start looking at a real playoff push. Up to this point and right now, all I wanted to see is growth in this offense and growth in this team to make sure that, this team, not make sure, but to see that this team is in the right trajectory. And I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this offense being able to take control of games. The time of possession was amazing. Now, the Atlanta Falcons in the first half I think they were trying to outsmart the Pittsburgh Steelers by throwing the ball a little bit, and they got a little bit away from their game, which was a positive thing for the Steelers because, they were able to minimize those drives that they had, and the time of possession for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first half was awesome. And the Steelers were in control. They were running the ball. They ended up putting 16 points in the first half. Now, Connor Hayward got his first touchdown as a Pittsburgh Steeler and as an NFL athlete. And in the city in which he grew up in, his father, Ironhead Hayward, played for the Atlanta Falcons. And so he was able to do that. Cam Hayward was visually emotional after the game, talking about his younger brother catching his first touchdown there in Atlanta. And it was a special moment for the Haywards. Cam had a sack, and Connor had a touchdown. It was a great game from both of those guys. And, and in a place that they grew up where there's a lot of history and kudos to those guys. Kenny Pickett spoke about it after the game as well. And he was talking about how Cam spoke to the team about his father and what this, game meant to him and his brother. And they went out there and they got it for him. Game balls definitely go out to those two guys, those two brothers on the team. They did a fantastic job. But Kenny Pickett, he did very well, in my opinion. He drove the ball down the field. We need to get in the end zone a little bit more, but those things will come. He was 16 for 28, which I think is a huge number right there, 28 attempts. I don't think the object should be having Kenny Pickett throw the ball more than 30, 35 times a game. And we're seeing that when he's throwing about 28, 30 times, the Pittsburgh Steelers are winning. They're also effective in the running game at that point as well. And so, Pickett was 197 yards, 7 average, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, which was big. The Steelers had no turnovers again in this game, and I think that was key for this victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Pickett had a rating of a 90.9. I like what I seen out of him. I like, there were several times where he was going through the progression. He found the guy open, whether it was Pat Freiermuth, and Pat Freiermuth had a big game as well. He's looking a lot better. I've said it before. I've been a little bit critical about his game, and it's not so much that I've been critical about his game. It's been more critical about his ability. I don't think he'll ever, have the arm talent of Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or any of those guys. But, you don't need that. And if you can effectively push the ball down the field and you can make a team have to play honestly, and you're able to effectively operate an offense, then that's what you're able to do. And that's all you need. And that's what I'm seeing out of Kenny Pickett at this point. And so, a lot of folks may have taken what I said wrong before when I said that, I wouldn't mind drafting a quarterback next year if the Steelers were to somehow end up in the top 5. But I also did say if the Steelers won 5 out of 4 of their last 9 games, that the Steelers would have found their quarterback, and that the picks that they have at that point in the top 3 could be to use and address the other positions on the team that are needed. And so some people may have taken that out of context. It is what it is. But I am liking what I'm seeing him with him after the bye. I believe he's 3-1. No interceptions, and I think he's doing fantastic. He's in the upward trajectory. Now, does that mean that he's never going to have a bad game? No, that would be that would, if your expectation is that he's never going to have a bad game again, then you're going to be highly disappointed. It's going to happen. It may even happen this year. He's a rookie quarterback, but what I wanted to see, what I've been wanting to see from him, I'm starting to see, and I'm liking what I'm seeing when it comes to Kenny Pickett. He's definitely proving me wrong, and so kudos to him and this offense, because they definitely need him. Now, when it comes to the receiving crew, I think Pat Freiermuth had himself a game. He had a long of 57, 5 targets, 3 receptions. 2 of those receptions, I believe, were on third down as well. Maybe all 3 of them were. They were, he did very well in this game. I was super impressed with him. Deontay Johnson had himself a game as well. 5 receptions for 60 yards, 12-yard average, had a long of 20 yards, had 11 targets. He had an almost fumble, and that would have been huge. At that point in the game, the Steelers were able to punt that ball off. I think that was the first punt of the game for the Pittsburgh Steelers at that point. But he needs to take care of the ball a little bit better. But like I mentioned before, if you expect these players to play perfect for the rest of their career, you're going to be disappointed more often than not. And so these players aren't perfect. I thought Deontay Johnson played a great game. I liked what I saw out of him moving the ball forward once he caught the ball and not trying to dance around and make more than what he has in front of him, because when he usually does that, it usually ends up being less than what he could have gotten. And so I think that in this game here, Deontay Johnson had a pretty good game. Connor Hayward had his 1 catch for 17 yards for a touchdown. And so I think that the passing game was complementary to the running game. And like I said before, this team needs to stick to around, limiting Kenny Pickett to about 30, maybe 35 at most passing attempts. And the Steelers need to really, really lean in on their running game. And I'm thinking that when it comes to, like, if I were to just give one game ball, it would probably have to be the O-line, just because of the fact that this is another game in a row where the Pittsburgh Steelers running team is taking care of business. And, you're seeing it from all the running backs. Now, Najee Harris showed a little something today that was special, in my opinion. He was there was a couple of times where he was, got limited for maybe even negative yards to 1 or 2 yard gain and turned it into 5 or 6, with just his physicality. He had an ugly stiff arm against one of the Atlanta players that, man, that probably should have been the thumbnail. It may be the thumbnail for next week, next couple of days show. But I thought that the offensive line played well. Chicks Kofor gave us a little bit of a scare when he went out with an injury, and so he came back. He was able to play. It looked like he had a stinger on the sideline, so it wasn't too bad. And I thought that, for the most part, the offensive line played pretty well, pretty fantastic. Defensively, the Steelers played awesome in the first half against the rush, holding down the Atlanta Falcons to minimal yards running. However, in the second half, Atlanta kind of showed up. Now, I think, like I mentioned before and earlier, that the Atlanta Falcons were maybe outsmarted themselves. We're thinking too much, and we're trying to throw the ball down the field or pass the ball a little bit more. But, that ended up going for the Steelers' favor, or in the Steelers' favor. And, in the second half, they really focused in on the rushing game. And I'll give credit where credit's due. Mariota was spot on when it came to that option on whether or not he was going to give the ball to the running back or keep it himself. He had TJ Watt guessing wrong a lot of the time, and that's not something that is usually done. And so, um, he played himself a game, and these guys played very well. They kept the game close. This is a team, like I said before, that's had a lot of games won by less than one score. And so, defensively, I think that the Steelers played pretty well. I would have liked them to have gotten a hold of Mariota a few more times. They only had one sack for 7 yards, and that was the Cam Hayward sack. Mariota was 13 of 24 for 167 yards, one touchdown, one interception by minkah Fitzpatrick. And, I think that was a really good move by Minkah to get out of bounds at that point and not score a touchdown. It ends the game. You just kneel the ball. It's over. It's done with. He scores a touchdown there. The game's probably over, but you still have to play a couple more significant downs that risks injury. And then you can always look back at what happened with the Jets and the Browns. So not saying that was plausible. I highly doubt it. But, you're putting your defense back out on the field. You're putting your special teams back on the field, and just unnecessary when all you got to do is just take a knee. And so I like minkah Fitzpatrick doing that at that moment. Let's see. The Atlanta Falcons ran for 146 yards, 5.2 average with a long of 22. Receiving, I think the Steelers did fairly well. Drake London was 6 for 95, 37 long. I think that was, their biggest play. Anthony Fisker he had 2 receptions. Parker Hess had 1. So not very many receptions except for Drake London. And he got more than half of their yards. So passing wise, the Pittsburgh Steelers were able to minimize the Atlanta Falcons there and did a fantastic job against them. The rushing in the second half was where the Falcons were kind of starting to make some noise and keeping the game close. But also kudos to Matthew Wright. I mean, he hit another 50-plus field goal. He had, what was it, like 4 field goals in this game. And he hit on all of them. He had another one kiss the upright. And so that one's when he kicks the ball, man, it's like you hold your breath, and it takes forever for the ball to get there. But, beggars can't be choosers. I think he's doing a great job, and he deserves the credit, not only for the field goal kicking, but also for his placement on the kickoff. He kept the ball away from Cordell Patterson many a times, and when he did kick to his direction, it was a touchback. So he kept the ball out of his hands, and so I think he did a fantastic job. He definitely did. If you have any questions, guys, I'll start looking through the live chat now, and we'll go through them and go through some of your comments. Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk real quick also about George Pickens. I'm a little bit concerned about him. I understand that it was a little bit of a homecoming for him as well. He played in Georgia. And I understand that he wants the ball in his hands, but, the Atlanta Falcons were treating him like a number 1 receiver, and they were double teaming him for most of the game. And I think the announcers were kind of reflecting to where just because they weren't on his hip, there were 2 defensive backs near him at all times. And the Steelers have to play smart football. They're a young team and an inexperienced team, and a team that can't get behind in the turnover battle. The margin of error in this team isn't very big. And they're learning and they're growing and they're getting better, but they're still young and they're still inexperienced. And you can't force a ball there. The team has to take what they're given. And if they are leaving Deontay Johnson in favorable situations, then he needs to step up to the plate. And he did today for the most part. And so George Pickens, I understand, he's young and, he was expecting the ball more, but when your team's winning and they're going and things are going in your favor, you got to be, have cooler head about the situation that you're in and think team first. Now, I know the second time that he blew up and, he was, yelling at coaches and this, that, and the third, which is not a good look regardless, was when it kind of looked like this team was letting the wind slip away, so to speak. But at the same time, man, you're a rookie, bro. You're not an all pro or a pro bowler or any of those things, man. You have to go through your path, like for instance, Martavius Bryant, when he was a rookie, didn't even play for the first 5 games. And then once they did, he was fantastic. Him being there and playing well and whatnot is because of his talents, but you can't let that get to your head at the same token, in my opinion. It's not a good look. It's not a good look on the team. It's going to, at a certain point, the media is going to start asking questions of your teammates, and that becomes a distraction. And if you're winning, you don't want to be a distraction at that point. That doesn't make any sense. I understand it wasn't the, you didn't get the targets or the looks that you wanted. But at the end of the day, it's team first, bro. And you're a rookie, and you need to sit down sometimes and just kind of take your lumps as they come, especially if you haven't really proven to anybody yet that you're this star that deserves to be thrown the ball, even though you're double or triple covered. You've had some fantastic catches. Yeah, great. But you're only, 11 games or whatever into your career. Put the brakes on a little bit and show some respect for your teammates and some class for this team. Those were the things that I didn't like about Chase Claypool and even Juju Smith-Schuster, who wasn't even being disrespectful to that extent, yelling at his coaches and things of that nature, but was doing the TikToks on the field and on the opponent's logos, which I found to be disrespectful and childish. It's just not a good look, and I don't like to see that. But let's go through some of these comments and questions. Let's see. How's it going, Claude? Mr. Element. This is our winner for the tickets for the that we gave away earlier this year. It's looking more and more like that game might be important that you'll be going to. He won the tickets to the Las Vegas Raiders versus Steelers Christmas Eve game, where they'll be celebrating the Immaculate Reception, the 50th year anniversary, and retiring Franco Harris's jersey number at halftime. Let's see. George OTJ, a W is a W. Good team win. Yep. Hey, what's going on? The Arsenal DB. Hey, if you're not subscribed to the Arsenal, make sure you go out there and give him a subscribe and a like on his content. He covers the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. And he goes, yeah, Najee been a different player since the bye. Yeah, he definitely has. Definitely has. Let's see. Any questions? Great to see us get us a hold on for the win. We need to convert these drives into TDs, not field goals, so we won't have to hold our breath for miracle endings. Yeah, I agree. The team needs to make that step. And in my opinion, this team is going to be moving in steps. We can't expect this team to go from, inexperienced and having some execution problems to like throwing 40, 50 times and, scoring 40 points a game. And, that's just unrealistic. There's got to be steps that are made. And the first few of them were, not going 3 and out the entire, half. In the beginning of the season, it was like majority of the game they played like that, except for maybe the fourth quarter or whatnot, and that was going on into last season. But then, you started seeing this team start playing a full quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, a half, and then now they played, in my opinion, their first full game where they just didn't poop the bed, so to speak, and not do anything offensively. I think this is their first week that they did that. And I think the next step is to convert more of these touchdowns into field goals. And so, field goals into touchdowns. I'm sorry. I'm still on a little bit of medication, guys. I did have surgery not too long ago. So I am feeling kind of good right now. But yeah, we definitely need to turn that over. Let's see. Thank you. Really enjoy as we show real progress game after game. I 100% agree. You know, that's all we can ask for at this point. Now, if the Pittsburgh Steelers win next week, and some things still continue to go in the way of the Steelers, as far as maybe perhaps the Patriots drop another game, the Jets drop another game, the Chargers drop another game, and we'll be a little bit closer, and that might be then a realistic option for the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe getting that wild card spot. With the Bengals winning tonight against the Chiefs, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough road down the road for the Steelers to catch up to them. Let's see. I agree 100%, George. A lot of young dudes improving. Hey, how's it going, Eddie Longs? Let's see. As long as we're in the playoff hunt graphic, I'm happy for now. Yeah, I agree. Nobody had the Steelers in the playoff hunt, at the bye. So I think everybody, including myself, thought that the Steelers perhaps were looking at a top 10 pick, top 7 pick, within the way that they were going, and you just got to hold on to a little bit of patience. Sometimes I got to take my own advice and, see where the Steelers are going. Let's see. And 3 tight ends is fine. Just may piss off the receivers a bit. Yeah, it might. But if you're winning and you're controlling the game, it shouldn't matter. That should be the object. Pickens was money today, and no interceptions for the 4th game in a row. I mean, I think he meant Pickett. Yeah, 100%. Let's see. He's not throwing enough to have an interception. So let me ask you, Daniel, does it matter now if he's the guy now that there's a running game? I'm seeing that they don't trust him enough to throw and achieve a W. I mean, no, I just don't think that it's a smart idea to put a rookie that probably has a limited playbook out there throwing the ball more than 30 times a game. You're probably looking at a limited playbook and limited looks, right? Each week that's going to grow though, but he's still very young. And even though we're in week, what are we, like week 12 now, 13, somewhere around there, he's only in week 8, right? As far as how this offense has been going for him. And so you can't really put too much on his plate. And if you expect him to go out there and run or throw the ball, for 40, 50 times, and you're going to see some duplicate plays over and over again. And then that's going to throw out the whole, this team isn't dynamic enough to, fire Matt Canada because they're doing the same stuff over and over again without the context of understanding that he's limited. He's a young guy. You can only give him so much at a time. And, he has to take what you give him and then effectively execute it on the field. If he can't execute it, or he's still missing, or he still has problems with certain parts of the playbook, you can't go further into the playbook until he's at least, mastered that portion of the playbook that you give him, that he understands it, and then he can go out there and effectively put that game plan into motion. And so, you got to give it to him little bits at a time. You also can't expose him by throwing him out there for 50 times a game. That's going to lead to some, it's going to end up leading into an offense that's predictable just because he's limited at this point. He's a rookie quarterback. You don't want to have a rookie quarterback throwing more than 30, 35 times a game. And I don't care which quarterback that is. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, when you look at an offense and you look at a running game and you're looking at the identity of this team and what they want to do, I don't think you want to throw more than 30, 35 times anyways. You know what I'm saying? So let's see. Hey, Britt Armstrong is in the building. Who's that guy behind you? Looks like me. Claude Bishop, who gets the game ball, the O-line? I would say, yeah, probably the offensive line. They did a pretty good job today, especially in the running game. Najee Harris is another guy that I would probably consider if I was just giving one. But the game ball going to the O-line, definitely, I wouldn't definitely not put that out there. Let's see. Nah, you're right. We need a draft one. He's still check down Charlie. And the deep ball still looks bad, sailing and not accurate deep. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he hasn't done the same thing every game. Well, he's going to do a lot of the same stuff every game right now because he's young. He's limited. Now, I don't think that that he's staying stagnant. I think he's improving. There was some plays today. One where he was, I think it was his third look, and he hit Pat Fryermuth on a third down for a conversion. And so that's what you want to find now. The deep ball, I'll be honest with you, I'm waiting for this upcoming game to answer that question. The last two games were in a dome. That was in controlled element area. If next week against the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh, and outside, and he struggles at that, then that's still going to be a concern for me. But that doesn't mean that it's not something that he can't improve as far as his accuracy and getting accustomed to the ball and controlling the ball ability to float on him. But that time will tell on that. Right now, what I was looking for was his these games that he was playing here and recently is. It was in a dome. It is what it is. You can only do with what is in front of you. And so I wasn't too concerned. I don't think any balls floated on him today. I think that he underthrew a couple. He had Pat Fryermuth, and that one hit the dirt. And I think he had Pat twice, or he had another one that one hit the dirt. But he also had an amazing throw to Sims. That Sims ended up, it was called a pass on the field, but ended up being overturned after a replay. Like, that was a perfect throw. You couldn't put it anywhere better. And so when you see those things and you're seeing that ability there, that gives you the optimism to say, all right, let's see what he got. Let's see if he can improve and get better. Is deep ball and is he going to be able to throw like Josh Allen or Mahomes? No, I don't ever see that happening. But I'll tell you this: Joe Burrow, his first year as a rookie, I didn't think he was going to make it as a quarterback because he had balls that sailed on him as well, and I thought he couldn't throw the ball in the wind. In fact, the one game that the Steelers played against him, where they blew him out, and prior to his injury, his rookie year, I was not impressed. I thought he wasn't going to be able to turn it around, and he's proved me wrong as well. And so only time will tell. Time will tell. Let's see. The running game has always been important for young quarterbacks. I agree 100%. 100%. Let's see. Played smart, and his choices of throws have all been the same. The run game is what's making him look good. He really hasn't changed anything. The run game, flat out. Let's see what happens when I want to see how you finish. Can't run, and he has to throw again. Tell me I'm wrong. Well, I mean, it's a team sport, and if the running game, like right now, if the running game fails him, he's going to be in a position where it's not going to be a favorable one for him. But that's because he's a rookie quarterback. Like, he's limited at this point. What I wanted to see is growth, and I think we're seeing that. Like I said, I've been critical of him. I'm not saying, and I'll continue to be critical of him until and of everybody on the team until they win a Super Bowl. That's just who I am and what I'm going to do. But at the same time, I'm also going to be honest and say, hey, you know what, man, there's some improvement here. And I'm not saying he's a franchise guy or he's the next dude yet. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm not going to also throw him under the bus at this point yet. And I haven't, by the way. I just said earlier, when I did say we would draft a quarterback, was if the Steelers were to have gone really bad offensively. But they're not. They've turned it around. I'm liking what I'm seeing. I think we can build around him. I really do. If he progresses in this manner now of, he comes out and it just completely craps the bed, then, we'll have the discussion. But, even at that, it'd have to be a couple of games where he's crapping the bed. I don't want to rush to a judgment off of one game because everybody's going to have a bad game. When I was talking about my concerns about him was after a few games that were a little bit concerning. He was regressing. But I think since then and since the bye, it has been a progression. He has gone forward and he's developing quite well, in my opinion. Let me see. Let's see. I also hope you're feeling better today. I know you can't really get too amped up just quick because not, as you said, a little athlete. Quick, yeah, no, yeah. And for those that don't know, I had a appendectomy on was it Thursday? I think it was Thursday. Yeah, I got home yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? I don't know. All the days are kind of mixing together, but I had an appendectomy on Thursday. Yeah, because Wednesday night I had a show that I was doing, and I recorded the injury report for the Steelers running backs. And then I was like, man, I'm really not feeling good still. And I went to the doctor, and sure enough, I had appendicitis, and they made it seem like I was going to rupture at any moment. So they rushed me to the hospital or to the ER because I went to a urgent care. And so I had to take an ambulance ride from the urgent care to the surgery clinic, or whatever you want to call it, the main hospital where the surgeries take place. And, waited there until the next morning. And I'll tell you what, man, I have a lot of respect for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Like, he was running the next day. Like, I feel fine today. Today and probably the last, I don't know, maybe hour or so, I started to feel a lot better, a lot normal. I just feel sore at this point from where I have three cuts in my abdomen. And so I have no idea how he was up and running and working out and being a full participant in an NFL practice that soon after his surgery. Bravo to him and the medical staff there in Pittsburgh, because that was impressive. Kenny making progress every week. It's very enjoyable to watch. I agree. That's all you can ask for at this point. And like I mentioned before, he has a bad game. I anticipate it happening. It's normal. It's what happens. Let's see. We'll skip around a little bit, see if we have anything new. Mr. Ellman says, Watt is definitely not 100% these last 2 weeks, but he was a step behind. I'm sorry. I don't like the butt there. Yeah, he's clearly hurt. He had a rib injury the last couple plays last week, apparently. That's why it showed up in the injury report. And yeah, it's obvious that he's hurting, that he's not 100%. And if Lamar Jackson don't play this upcoming week because he went out with a knee injury, do you sit TJ Watt? I don't know. I think you limit him. I think you do what you did with Miles Jack and a couple of games ago where Robert Spillane played every snap, but the Steelers didn't need to use Miles Jack as much. I think we might do that with TJ because he fell a couple of times pretty hard, and he had that rib protector. But yeah, man, he definitely didn't look right. But he's out there. He's a gamer. He's a guy he's a competitor, and he's a warrior. And so, next week I probably anticipate him being out there regardless of anything. And so he's got another week of health. He's probably going to be limited for the majority part of the week. I would probably not, I'd probably rest him for, maybe until Friday and have him just walk through or something like that. But yeah, no, he's not 100%. He's a step behind a little bit, but he's still out there being a disruptor. He may not have had the stats or anything today, but he made his presence known. He had some pressures and things of that nature. What's going on, Brian Brown? Hello, Jaime. How's it going? 10-4 Kenny is ball possession skills are better than most rookies. I agree with that. He he's getting better. like I said, he has some throws that he had in this game that are flashy. He's flashing at the right time. I think that with experience, kind of like what OG Steelers is saying right here. Kenny is a good quarterback, just needs more experience and a good line. I don't think we'll make the playoffs. I don't think we can compete with the good AFC teams this year. We should draft OL in the first 2 rounds. And so with OG Steelers, I agree he's a good QB and he just needs more experience. As far as the O-line goes, I think the O-line's doing okay. I'm concerned maybe with Dan Moore and maybe the left tackle might be something that the Steelers addressed early in the draft next year. But I think the offensive line is doing okay, and they're growing together. This is like I said, we have 2 players in the interior. One of them in Daniels, and which is probably your captain of the offensive line. It's his first year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're all very, very young. I think they're 26 and under. And so, in my opinion, they're just growing together as well, and they'll get better as the season progresses. I think they're doing fine. I wouldn't be opposed to addressing a left tackle in the draft early, but I'm thinking the Steelers probably need to go corner and middle linebacker. I don't think Devin Bush is coming back, and the cornerback position really hasn't been. We really don't have a CB1 on this team right now, and so it could be addressed, in my opinion. Let's see. KP in his first 4 games, 2 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Last 5 games, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. KP is improving, getting used to the game and player speed. Yeah, and he's also had a couple of touchdowns passes that were dropped last week as well. Me and Mark were talking about it on the Unofficial Steelers podcast the other day, that he had George Pickens last week where he tried to one-hand it, and I think he could have gotten 2 hands on the ball and brought it in. And then Deontay Johnson also had a ball broken up that could have been a touchdown. And so, right now, like, I think he's doing okay. He's definitely improving. A lot of the interceptions also, I think 3 of those interceptions weren't his fault. They hit the hands of receivers. And so, 2 of them, I would say, 2 of those 3 that hit the hands of the receivers, I'd still put it on him because of the decision to throw it there. Pat Freiermuth late in the Jets game. Chase Claypool, the first interception, it was a little bit underthrown. And so if he throws it out in front of him, then it's not tipped. So I will I'll put those on him. But yeah, he's definitely improving. If you don't think he's improving, then you have you have this predetermined mindset on him, and it doesn't matter what he does. I don't think you'll think that he'll improve unless he just blows it out of the water and you can't deny it. But if he's improving marginally and you have this pre-mindset about him already, whether it's good or bad, you're going to be sticking with that. And so it is what it is. Let me see. We need to change defense as well. We have the same defense since 1992. I mean, I don't think we have the same defense. We run a lot of different, like special packages, dime, nickel, things like that, because of the speed in which the opposition runs, and so our base package isn't really used very often. Great point, Dan. It's going to be more. Thank you so much. Let's see. I noticed the NFL won't flex the stinking Cowboys off Sunday Night Football, no matter how big their opponents are. Yeah. And that's because they're doing well, I guess. If you had one, I think the Steelers, when they got flex, I think both teams weren't doing so well. And so that's probably why. Let's see, I'm going to go down through the Steelers did not stomp. I said we stoned them because if you guys watch the Unofficial Steelers podcast the other day with me and Mark Davison from Steelers Nation Australia, I talked about we had the Falcons and then we had the Ratbirds, and I was like, I just made the analogy is like we're gonna kill two birds with one stone, and so that's kind of why it's called that. Let's see. We need to draft nose tackle deal in the future. We are Swiss cheese defense. The running game in the second half was a little bit concerning. I will say that would should probably does need to be addressed in the near future is that defensive tackle position and nose tackle 100%. Cam Hayward's Cam Hayward. He's getting older. Father time gets to everybody. He's still playing fairly well, but you can't anticipate him to be playing 3-4 years down the line, and so. I expect the Steelers to probably address the defensive line or the interior DL 100%. I do think that they're going to get a better middle linebacker. I would hope so, at least, whether it's in draft or free agency, because I think Devin Bush is out. He's going to go test the market. The Steelers aren't going to give him, they're not going to extend him. And so they might try to do the Terrell Edmonds where they're like, hey, go check out the market. If you like what you see, then good luck. If you don't get, a reasonable offer and you want to come back, then, we'll pay you something about $2 million a year. And so I think I see them doing that, but given the pedigree in which Devin Bush has had, I wouldn't, and he's not playing that bad either. And so I think he's going to find himself on another team this offseason. Let's see. 100%, right? As long as the Steelers win the game, everybody should be happy. I agree. 100%. Let's see. How's it going, Pens Man Sports? When we were winning, the defense could hold it down, and we are now offense heavy. Too many retreats on defense. They held the Falcons to 16 points. When you hold the team below 20 points offensively, I think your defense did all right, especially in today's day. And so, like I said, they're not going to be perfect. There's going to be parts of the game that fell a little bit. And, the Falcons had a good game plan. They came out, they started throwing the ball. And, I think that made the Steelers play a little bit more honest in the second half. When you think about it, they had to, protect against the pass and the RPOs and things of that nature, especially showing the tendencies that they were having in the first half. And so you had to respect that. You had to play a little bit more honest. You couldn't just come in on the run like you would have thought of doing so in the first half based on their tendencies going into this game. And so, the Steelers were able to bend but not break. They only allowed one touchdown as well. And so, a bunch of field goals. So 19-16. I really can't say the defense is that, played horrible when they held the team to 16 points. Let's see. Pensman Sports says, I think we can make the wild card. I think there's a good possibility. The Chargers lost to the Raiders today and the Jets lost to the Vikings. And so, we got to get in front of the Jets because they hold the tiebreaker, so we can't end up with the same record as them. And we play the Raiders a little bit later this week or this year. And so if we can maintain the trajectory, and I think we're going to have to win out, to be honest with you, or win majority of these games. Given the fact that we lost to every team in the AFC East, we're not going to have very many tiebreakers over a lot of these teams. And so if we want to get into the playoffs, I think we probably got to win out. But there's a good chance. Let's see. Exactly, Brian Brown. Way to go. Let's see. Joseph, we really need a top flight cornerback. Yeah, I agree on that. I agree. Everybody's talking about Joey Porter's son. So hopefully, I would definitely like to see that as well. He seems like a fantastic cornerback. I haven't really broken anything down him, but based on what I've seen so far, I think he could fit in nicely on the black and gold. Let's see. Need to let him cook. When Ben took over from Maddox, the rest is history. We have the veteran D and a veteran running back. Yeah, Ben took over from Maddox. We kind of looked at that as well. Ben's first year, I think he averaged 178 yards per game, and he won 14 games, something like that. the second year when he went to the Super Bowl and the Steelers won the Super Bowl, he averaged less than 200 yards passing in that year as well. It's just winning football. During the time when Ben got injured in 2005 and Maddox came back in, they threw the ball more during that time, and that was because Maddox knew more of the offense and was more comfortable with the passing and passing the ball than probably what Ben was at that point. He didn't have the arm talent nor the it factor that Ben had, but he knew the playbook probably more than Ben at that point, and which is probably why they threw the ball more. And in those games, I think Maddox dropped like 2 or 3 games. So, it really doesn't matter, in my opinion, how long you've been in the game. If you're throwing over 35 times a game, it's usually not a winning formula unless you're Patrick Mahomes or something special at the quarterback position. Let's see. Brian Brown goes, Matt Canada is still a terrible coordinator. I don't think so, buddy. I don't think he is. And I'm not saying he's a best coordinator, but you also, like I said earlier in the program, this team has to learn this offense slowly. It could have been any coordinator back there. And if this coordinator, name coordinator, whoever you want, was back there and he just opened up the playbook 100% with all these new pieces at very important positions, I don't think it would have looked good either. And so it had to happen slowly. It is just the growing pains of a young team growing into the offense. Now, if it doesn't get better than this next year, then yeah, he probably needs to bounce out because the growth isn't there. But I think we're seeing some new things, especially in the running game. There was a Derek Watt run that they got a first down. That was very interesting. I really like that play. Let's see. We need Mike Martz to use the tools and get rid of MC. We need a new DC as well. The mean streak, like Greg Williams, do not make teams fear us. We do not make teams fear us. The BF experiment has failed. I mean, maybe. I mean, there's been a lot of injuries to this team, especially defensively. You had the reigning defensive player out of the year out for most of the season, and he's still not 100% back. I think if Fitzpatrick had an appendectomy, which I can tell you, he's probably getting right now to 100%. He was maybe out there and able to participate and play in football last couple of weeks, but I highly doubt he was 100%. And so, the cornerback position, Akila Weatherspoon's been out with a hamstring for majority of the year. Those are some key pieces that have gone down that, at the same token, they're still holding teams under 20 points. They got blown out a couple times. I get it. A couple of those games, TJ Watt wasn't there. A few of those games, Akila Weatherspoon wasn't there. Or that was the game where he blew his hamstring. And so, this team needs some key positions there, and we'll see what happens. But, the personnel that's out there also is important. Well, let's see. And I'll probably go on for another couple of minutes here. I'm going to get about 2 more questions through here, and then we'll call it a show. Person goes, even though the stats don't show, TJ has been putting a lot of pressure on the O-line and QB. Yeah, for sure. He's been a dominant force out there. And that's one of the things that I said. He's, him coming back, he is allowed also because the opposition has to take account for him. And so it's been putting, some favorable positions for guys like Alex Highsmith, Larry Ogunjobi, Cam Hayward. And these guys have been able to take advantage of what they, of those, the situations that are there because of TJ Watt and the attention that he acquires. But yeah, he's definitely been a focal point. He's gotten close several times. There was a couple of times where he was hitting Mariota when he didn't have the ball, and I liked it. You want to use him as a running back, treat him as such. And so I think that TJ Watt is definitely doing better. He had a rib injury, and you can tell it was bothering, especially the couple of times where he fell on the ground. He's going to get better. He's going to get better as he gets healthy, for sure. Let me see. We'll do two more. Let me see. Terry Bradford says, what do you think he's supposed to look like? Joe Montana right off the bat? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Right now you just want to look and see some progression. You want to see him flash. You want to see the decision making becoming better. You want to see him progress more through the offense, do less one look reads, two look reads. And when you're seeing that, you're seeing the progression get there. You're seeing the him develop into this offense, and that's what you're looking for at this point. Let's see. They need to play to his strengths, and that is on the OC. Well, I think they've been playing to their strengths. Now, as the field gets shorter, it becomes more difficult. The game becomes more difficult. The Steelers were a good red zone team, better than most for the last few years because they had a Ben Roethlisberger out there that was experienced, that had seen it all, so to speak. We don't have that. Regardless of what Kenny Pickett can be in the future, he's not that yet. And so you have to limit things. You have to make sure that you get points on the board, and you have to protect the ball. And so as this team gets more comfortable in this offense, and as this team gets more comfortable with each other and grow with each other, in my opinion, we're going to see less of these field goals and more touchdowns. It's some growing pains. That's what it is. But definitely need to turn those into touchdowns much sooner than later, because the next game is against the Baltimore Ravens, and if we let them hang around, they definitely have a field goal kicker that can end the game pretty fast. So Jaime Carlos says, seeing Hayward wearing his father's jersey makes me smile ear to ear. Yeah, that was an awesome post press conference by Cam Hayward. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. He was very he was talking about his brother and his dad and what they did before the game, and very touching story about what how he felt today when his brother Connor scored a touchdown. Let's see. I'll do two more questions. Let me see. Do you feel like the Steelers are always lack of depth? I mean, compared to other teams, it seems to me when the starters get hurt, the Steelers can't win. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think the Steelers have this weird. I think there was a stat out there where the Steelers had the most like undrafted players at one point on their team. It's weird. They have a weird tendency of going that direction, especially with their depth and the cornerbacks. But yeah, the depth is can be a question mark. But that also goes to coaching. They go hand in hand, because you're supposed to be able to cover for those things. When something goes, something's weak in one area, you gotta be able to scheme that out. Now, it's not going to be perfect, and you can't expect the team to perform the same manner in which when their starters are in. That would be unrealistic. If that was the case, then the backups would be starters themselves. But there is a significant drop off when there is a starter that is out in some of these key positions. And so health is definitely a huge factor. That's why often at the end of the season, it's not usually some of the, when it comes to playoffs and stuff, sometimes it's not the best teams that get in. It's the healthiest teams that get in. And so, it's a double-edged sword there. But, you've seen things like, for instance, the Buffalo Bills. They had a backup secondary against our Pittsburgh Steelers, and they dominated us. But, the Steelers had a backup secondary against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they did a number on Tom Brady too. So, any given Sunday sometimes, you know what I'm saying? The Tampa game was a unicorn. Let's see. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better. I'm feeling like today, as like this morning, I was still kind of feeling a little bit crummy. But as the day progressed, and I start moving around more, I feel so much better. I feel almost 100%. When I'm sitting here, when I'm standing up and moving around, I'm probably like 50%, but I'm doing better. Thank you. Boom. The Steelers are 5-7. Celebrate, Steelers Nation. You know it. You know it. Thank you for joining us, Mark. Let's see. What podcast is this? The Kenny Pickett fan club? No, I'm just being honest. Like I said, there's still some things I want to see out of Kenny Pickett, and I can't I don't want to say evaluate it, but I can't make it form an opinion on certain things until I see happen outside of a dome. Throw the ball down the field. But I can't also put that against him because he was playing in a dome. That's unfair. You know what I'm saying? And so, based on this performance and the performances that he's had since the bye week, which some of them have been outside, I think he's improving. I think he's going in the right step. Is he the next Ben Roethlisberger? I don't know. I really don't. And so, only time will tell, but I do like the progression that I'm seeing at this point. Let's see. Can agree. I mean, we are just executing much better, which can make the play calling appear better. Well, wouldn't bad execution make the play calling appear worse? I don't know. Maybe. Let's see. 2 road wins in a row. The future looks bright. That's true. You know what? That is true. This wasn't just 2 wins in a row, but these were 2 road wins in a row. That makes it even bigger. You're absolutely right. Makes it bigger. Well, guys, that's all I have. I want to thank everybody that was in the live chat that commented and got into the conversation with us about the Steelers game. Steelers are 5-7. Like I said before, I'm not really looking at the playoff picture yet. I want them to be a respectable team, and there's one more step into respectability. Mike Tomlin said this earlier this year that they didn't dig themselves in a hole in 1 week. They're not going to dig themselves out of the hole in 1 week. And so, with that being said, this is a good win, and this is another step in the right direction. Is there room for improvement? For sure. For sure. The fact that the Steelers had, what was it, like 6, what is it, like 4 field goals? And this game could have been easily put away if those were touchdowns. Yeah, that tells you this team needs to improve. There was a lot of penalties also that this team had. And so is there room for improvement? Yep. But you don't want to say, hey, man, this team barely snuck it out or are losing and there's no room for improvement. And so it is what it is. But there is room for improvement. And the fact that they're winning and still improving, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. And that's a good thing to celebrate. It's another good week, double, win for us. Now it's Ravens week. It's Ravens week. Man, I'm looking forward to this because if the Steelers can win this game here, I think then we can start talking about playoffs. But with that being said, guys, I'm Daniel J. The State of the Steelers. Steelers win again, 5-7. Another step in the right direction, y'all. With that being said,